I'm Vijay Vaitheeswaran, China Business and Finance Editor for The Economist and Chairman of the Ideas Economy event series. You're about to see one of the highlights from our 2013 Ideas Economy Innovation Forum Working Group sessions. I hope you enjoy it. Tell us what you think at #IdeasEconomy.
I am absolutely delighted to introduce to you our panel members today, who will be talking about all sorts of exciting and innovative ideas. I have here Robyn Bolton from Innosight, Peter Sims, author of Little Bets and a social entrepreneur, and George Halvorson, CEO of Kaiser Permanente.
I'm Robyn Bolton, and I'm a partner at Innosight. And as a firm, we were founded by Clay Christensen, and all of the work we do is really around innovation and growth strategy. And one of the things that we've really seen kind of come up in the last, say, 3 to 5 years is what we've started terming the fourth era of innovation. And what that fourth era is really the resurgence of corporate America and big companies actually taking a role in innovating within the economy. So kind of the first era being the lone inventor, the Gutenbergs and folks of the world. The second era really being around kind of the corporate labs. The third era being venture capital. But this fourth era of companies, big companies, really being able to harness all of the power and the practices that we see entrepreneurs using and startups using, and really use the resources that are unique to a big company to actually drive innovation and actually take on really, really huge, challenging problems, global problems like agriculture, like healthcare, like water, waste, fair trade, fair labor, and tackle these huge global issues in truly innovative ways using new business models, new products, new services, and really change the game on some of these really outstanding major issues that lots of startups are trying to tackle but don't quite have the scale or the influence to really dramatically move the needle on the scale that needs to be moved.
This is a fascinating time. It's a fascinating time to be in government. Had the opportunity recently to visit with people in the UK. They're entering a triple-dip recession, and there's this sense of almost despair, I think, in a lot of parts of the business community, the philanthropy community, and in government. And the officials there were saying, government has to be the enabler. We have to, as Robyn and her colleagues at Innosight have talked about the role of catalyst, we have to turn to these cross-sector athletes to try to find ways of, from the bottom up, coming up with experiments that work and then using government to scale those more effectively. And those bonds aren't really well developed. The cohesive bonds between these sectors aren't really well developed. And if you look at the corporate side, a company like GE is saying, well, it's very hard to get somebody to be really innovative at GE because it's, we're really good at solving known problems. We're really good at engineering problem solving, but it's not so easy to go out and discover. It's really hard to develop that mindset if you're not naturally used to being creative, entrepreneurial, what have you. So what they're doing is they're using their platforms to go out and find how they can use their assets. And it's a classic entrepreneurial mindset applied to a company. Who you know, what you know, and what resources you have to gather the best insights, do experimentation, and then scale up what works. And GE is now acting more as a venture capital firm than it ever has in the past. And I think it's kind of a fascinating time to watch as those sectors, and then also the military uses this approach to solving problems from the bottom up that's very experimental and that requires you to be willing to be imperfect, which is very hard in the military because you're supposed to have the doctrine-approved solution for everything. So across all these sectors, you really look towards these catalysts, as Scott Anthony describes them. We call them black sheep, people who are willing to have courage to be more entrepreneurial. And at the same time, the barriers are extremely daunting, I think, for people across any of those areas. And so the more that they can band together and develop informal, decentralized networks, the more they're going to be able to get shit done, And so that's just, I think, a really cool opportunity for corporations to adapt to this new world. But you would know better than me.
I'm with Kaiser Permanente, and let me just very briefly explain our perspective and our context. We are a vertically integrated care system. We own hospitals, clinics, labs, pharmacies. We have all the pieces of care, and we deliver care to 9 million people, and we have $50 billion in revenue, and we get the revenue up front. We are independent of the fee schedule. So we don't have to deliver all the rest of American healthcare is captive to the fee schedule. And because of that, we're reinventing care. So we've taken all of our care data, put it on the computer, and we have an EMR for all of our patients. And our motto is all of the information for all of the patients, all of the time, all. So our caregivers constantly have all the information. They also have all of medical science. So we have all the medical journals, we have all the medical articles, we have 2,500 care protocols, we have care prompts available electronically to the doctors anywhere. So when the doctors, our basic underlying philosophy, we have two. One is make the right thing easy to do. So figure out what the right thing is. The right thing is that doctors need science. Make it easy to do by putting it into an electronic distribution model that we've gone through 7 generations of now to make it easier to get the information to the doctor. So we can do all of this because we have the size, scale, and we have the cash flow to do that. So we've committed to innovation as a major part of our agenda, and that innovation extends to patient connectivity. So we're connecting the patient to the caregiver electronically. We do many millions of e-visits. We send out 30 million lab results electronically to patients last year. I had my blood drawn the other morning, and I had the lab result on my iPhone at 11 o'clock in the morning before I got to my lunch meeting. So we're able to innovate on care. We believe that care delivery, and I'll end with this, we believe that care delivery is on the cusp of a explosion, a next generation, an industrial revolution that's going to transform the way care is going to be delivered. We think the sites of care are going to evolve. There's going to be hospitals, there are going to be clinics. The home is going to be a major site of care. We're working on all kinds of in-home connectivity, monitoring, tracking, interaction, and we think the internet is going to be the 4th site of care. And all of those things are really going to be enabled by internet and connectivity and innovation. And so this is, we think, literally we're on the cusp of a golden age for care delivery if we do this right and don't screw it up.
One of the themes here today is that bigger firms are in a better position to innovate. But Peter and some others earlier today talked about some roadblocks to that. So Robyn, can you touch on what makes big firms at an advantage when it comes to innovation?
Sure. So they're definitely at both an advantage and a disadvantage. So what puts big firms at an advantage is one, that they do have the scale. So when you think about distributing, products or services, they have those distribution systems already set up so that they can get the solution that people need, the solution that people want, to lots of people very, very quickly. And it takes years, decades to set up those types of distribution systems, especially when you're talking about something that is not internet-based, when you're talking about healthcare or when you're talking about clean water. So they have that in place. They also have the brand name and kind of the respect so that they can approach governments, they can approach NGOs and the partners that you really need to make those big changes to big problems. They have the credibility. They have the brand name in order to kind of go and initiate those conversations and be a credible partner. The other thing they have is the expertise. They have the resources. They have, whether it's the expertise in information systems, in science, whatever that may be, they have that in spades. Now, the disadvantage, absolutely true. It's the other side of the coin that, it's hard for big companies to change, but what we have found, and Peter alluded to this earlier, is that there are catalysts within companies that are really, really good at creating networks and using influence well beyond what their title is, well beyond what the corporate org chart would say, to bring people together, to harness the energy that's kind of latent within a lot of big corporations, to reach outside and pull knowledge in, and really act as that spark within a big company. And big companies, the final thing that really gives them an advantage is they recognize the importance of these catalysts. And because so much has been written about what makes startups successful and the lean startup, the design thinking, those behaviors, executives of big companies have read those books too. And they realize, hey, we have catalysts. We have to change the way we work with them and kind of flatten our hierarchy. We have to remove the processes. But let's create space for these catalysts to do what they do best, and then give them the resources that a startup can't give, and really kind of let the solutions fly, let them get big, and really tackle big problems.
So I support that. That would be awesome. I mean, that's the ideal view, right? I mean, is that you're painting the picture of the ideal view?
But it happens. It's real.
Yeah, I think companies don't innovate, people do. And so in the future, I think people are going to say, well, do I need to be connected to GE or to McKinsey or to whatever, or do I want to be connected to maybe it's a network, a set of networks, a new type of guilds? I think are going to be the ones that emerge, because you mentioned credibility. I think an individual can have a hell of a lot of credibility if they can get things done and pick up the phone and call 10 partners to focus on a problem, and mobilize all these assets from these companies, pretty quickly these days. And that's what I think the best entrepreneurs do. And so I'd be very curious to know, like, from your standpoint, just like, how do you empower these catalysts to go out and work outside the company, work across sectors?
Kaiser actually has won 6 uptime awards for our technology. The uptime award is 100% uptime for the entire year. It's given by Uptime Institute. We're the only people in healthcare that have won it, but we've won it 6 times because we are obsessive about the fact that we are using technology so extensively for all of our care delivery that we just absolutely have to be available. But the innovation, we encourage innovation in our organization all the time. Our motto is we want to be the best at getting better. We give awards for the best quality programs. We have a dozen nominees every year for that. We give awards for best patient safety. We have several innovation conferences every year. We invite hundreds of people to the innovation conferences, and they share their information. We have a couple hundred projects that are going through our innovation funding approach. Anybody who has a really good idea can bring it forward and put it on the table. A small committee will evaluate it quickly, and if it makes sense and it passes all the right safety tests, we put it in place. We just had one that came out last week that's a little system that a doctor said, why don't I have a system that when my lab results come back, I get a quick call to my personal iPhone telling me the lab results are back for that patient so I can intervene. And they said, that's a really good idea. So they actually had some people assigned to it, made it into a project, made it into a pilot. It's now operational. One of our sites, and that's going to spread quickly because it's just a really smart thing to do. So we're trying to encourage innovation all of the time, be a culture of innovation. We also built the Garfield Institute, and that's a site just south of town where we have mock-ups of hospital beds and clinic settings and patients' homes, and we're testing technology and testing approaches and testing workflow in the Garfield Center. And we have cameras built into the ceiling, just like a film studio. So very Hollywood, very, very California. We celebrate our culture of innovation, and I write a letter every Friday to all of our employees, and I celebrate something every Friday that we've done. I celebrate an award that we've won or something. And about a third of those celebrations are about an innovation somewhere. So 180,000 employees get a letter from me every Friday talking about something that we've just done innovatively, and that creates a tone.
I think we are out of time. Please join me in thanking our panelists for this great discussion.
Thank you. Good job.